Right, good evening and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this webinar on the EB5 program. A little bit of housekeeping first, a little information about who we are and what it is that we do. Joining us this afternoon is myself, obviously, Matthew Theron from Holborn Assets, and I'm a senior associate here. And next to me on my right is Jade Kramer, also a senior associate with Holborn. And then from further up country in Johannesburg, we have Shayne Peacock. Good evening, Shayne, or afternoon, Shayne.
Afternoon.
Shayne is our specialist when it comes to our citizenship by investment, EB5s, Portuguese golden visas, and many of the other programs that we offer. A little bit about Holborn first, something that makes us unique and explains the reason why we've done so very well and successfully is that when it comes to our business, we are the second largest independent financial advisory globally, with clients in over 30 different countries and just shy of $3 billion in assets under advisement.
Yeah, thank you for that, Matt. Another reason why people do business with Holborn is because we have actually been rated as excellent when it comes to our client services.
Another reason is the fact that we are a truly independent financial advisory. So we are not owned, nor are we incentivized by any one fund or product provider. So we're able to choose who we do business with based purely on merit to our clients.
Another reason why people do business with Holborn Assets is due to our safety and security. We look at the best and most secure jurisdictions in the world, and that's how we base our clients' advice, and that's where we advise our clients on investing.
And then finally, you will find that with Holborn, our advisors and wealth managers are the most qualified and best educated out there in the industry. Everyone is required to do continuous training through the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investments, which is the industry leader when it comes to independent financial advisory education in the UK. And then, also not only that, but you'll find on Trustpilot, we are the highest ranked when it comes to the financial services industry with a trust score of 4.8, I believe it is. When it comes to the businesses that we do, obviously, we deal with a lot of services in that we advise clients with offshore pensions and offshore trust structures. We also deal with setting up investment companies or investment trusts platforms. There's Jade deals with a lot of offshore property.
Correct, yeah.
And leveraging and making property portfolios. We also deal in alternative assets as well. And then part of that when it comes to investment is then your offshore citizenship by investment.
Plan B.
Your Plan B passports. And that is why we have Shayne here with us this evening, who is our resident expert, and to give us some more information, in particular with regards to the EB5 program, something which is a very, very hot thing at the moment, mainly because of some recent and surprising changes in the law, which is sure to change soon again, but it's allowing us an opportunity, a sort of once in a lifetime opportunity for a very short time. And that is why we have Shayne here this evening. And Shayne is going to tell us some more about that.
Thanks. Thank you for inviting me. So to give you a little bit of background first, before we sort of go into the ultimate American dream, as they would call it. Us as a business, we have access to pretty much every country worldwide. What we do as a company is we offer our clients, whether they be Africa-based, Middle East, and at this point, European or American, we offer our clients the opportunity to be able to achieve their goal of obtaining a secondary residence or citizenship. Today specifically, although we do have access to many, many different sort of directions from Europe to the US, today specifically we're going to focus on the US. If I can just share my screen. Can you see that, guys? Perfect. So we're sitting in a position. So over the last 3 years, this specific program has changed here and there. What it was it started off at being a 500,000. In the early 90s, it started off as 500,000. And it pretty much went through the entire time without changing. Once Donald Trump got on board, he decided he was going to change it slightly. And in 2019, they made the rules to increase the pricing. So they increased the pricing from 500 up until 900. It turns out Mr. Trump didn't do everything that was supposed to happen, and it didn't go the right regulations. So now we're sitting with a position, and probably I would say this position it's going to come about until the end of this year, where we're sitting with the opportunity of it coming back down to 500,000. Right? What it means for us as individuals is we are now able to offer our clients the American dream at a more affordable costing, which gives them the ability to be able to live within the US, the right to come and go as they please, the right to be able to have their financial and educational systems, their medical systems, to be able to apply for universities, basically have all the same rights as any citizen within the US has. You would have those same opportunities. All right. Now, generally speaking, there are two routes to obtain an EB5 program. The first route, which we're going to be discussing today, is the direct EB5 route. And the second one is what they call a regional center. Regional centers have been quite popular over the last few years. They're a sort of an alternative to the direct EB5. But as from September 1st this year, it was put on hold. So it's been frozen. We're waiting for the Senate to reapprove. There's a couple of changes that are happening, but they're waiting to do that. But what that provides for us is a secondary alternative, which is the direct EB5. This EB5 program is actually written into US law, so it's not something that can just be changed, and thus it hasn't needed to be renewed. Right? What the EB5 option does for you is it allows you to obtain permanent residence within about 2 to 3 years. That permanent residence, like I said, gives you the same rights as any other US citizen. And after 5 years of actually living within the US, it gives you the right to be able to apply for citizenship, which then gives you the secondary passport and allows you to vote. People that are able to do it would be you and your spouse and any unmarried children up until the age of 21. So the whole family can be processed going forward. Right? There's no, unlike some of our other programs, there's no requirement for language, there's no requirement for education or even age for the main member. So one of your most simplest, easiest processes in the residency and citizenship by investment.
Shayne, quick question there. What about parents when it's with this particular program? What if you have elderly parents? Can they come? You can have children under 21 and your spouse, but what about your parents?
So unfortunately on this, this option, it's not possible. However, with the US, and obviously their family reunification is pretty strong. So as being a parent of a US citizen gives you the right to be able to apply for your own green card in your own right. And it's a lot easier process by being a parent of the US, but unfortunately part of the EB5 route, it doesn't give you the right to be able to do that just yet.
So at least there is a path later on then.
Yeah. And that's the nice thing about this as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be your funds. It can be sponsored. So if your parents are feeling generous and they would be able to sponsor you, we can do it that way as well. All right. So unlike some of our other programs where we have to provide source of funds, this we can have a factor where the funds are sponsored by a family member. All right. So it does give you a nice opportunity there. Now, like I was saying to you, as far as the regional centers and the direct, the EB5 structures work. So an EB5 direct is probably your most simplistic route. There you're looking at, you'd invest into a business. That business would then generate 10 jobs, working jobs for yourself. So your name would effectively be employing 10 working people for the next 5 years. And for that, you'll get your EB5. Whereas a regional center, because of their size, generally speaking, it would be an investment into multiple structures, and they'll have multiple jobs assigned, but it's not directly 10 people for you. It's more of an economical structure than an individual structure, right? And this is the one that has been temporarily stopped. And generally in the past, it's the one that most people know about. Although the direct EB5 is the one that started the process. Right? Now, direct EB5, as I've mentioned, at the moment is sitting at 500,000. We are of the opinion, and you'll hear a lot of different stories, but we're of the opinion that end of this year, so beginning of next year, they will increase it. What that means for us is we've effectively got 3 months to begin the process. Once that has happened, it's a fairly straightforward process. Our current investment is an expedited project. What that means is the government has identified it as quite significant in the format that it's quite beneficial for the government and for the US country to be able to expedite this. It's what they call national importance. And the reason for that is the specific project that we've chosen or selected. And I mean, it's come through quite a long process. It hasn't been an overnight structure. What we've done is we've been working with our partners for quite some time. If you look within the Holborn citizenship and residency team, you've probably got an experience of over 1,000 applications for the EB5. Right? We've been doing this for a while. And through that experience and through that sort of interaction, we've managed to find ourselves quite a nice partner. And through that partner, it's an expedited process. What that means for you as an individual is instead of waiting almost 18 months to 24 months for the process to happen, with the expedited process, you're now looking at 6 months to 12. So what that means is once you have started, you can receive your, what they call almost a temporary green card within about 6 months. So this time next year, you'd be able to live, work, and study within the US. Right. The project itself, there we go, is we've partnered with Cathy Island Recovery Centers. Now, the Recovery Center is quite important to the US because of, I know I'm using the word epidemic, and with the current situation, epidemic is quite a big word. But within the US, there has been a situation where mainly your middle class have almost become quite addicted to painkillers. They call it opioids. And I'm sure you've seen it on TV and in a lot of these sitcoms and soapies and things like that. They sort of touch on the point. What it's done is it's become quite a big thing where a lot of your middle class and your population are becoming addicted to these opioids. So what the government has done is they put together a number of recovery centers and they've partnered with a number of partners. Cathy Pacific Worldwide is Cathy Island Worldwide is one of those partners. And to date, they've built over 45 different centers. Their aim is to have at least 1 to 2 in each state. And it's become very successful because of the fact that it is government backed. Right? These centers, when you're investing within them, per center, you're looking at about 121 jobs that are required, but they're assigning 110 jobs to this type of investment, to the EB5. So they've got a remainder that they're not necessarily scarce of jobs, but it allows applicants to be able to quite easily understand the fact that those jobs are specific for them. All right? What it's doing now is all of these centers have been funded by government already, government and banks. So 90% of the funding for these developments are already paid and already secured. The EB5 portion of these investments are minimal, therefore putting the investment at less risk. Now, what the actual wording within the government gazette states is that any investment made within the EB5, the funds have to be seen at risk. Anywhere you look, it will always be funds need to be at risk. What that means is it doesn't mean that we have to be risky. It just means that we have to make sure that our investments are sound and that we've done our due diligence. And on this we have. So the due diligence has been processed very, very well. These recovery centers, like I say, per patient, about 85% of those costs are paid by the government. Right? Therefore, we're giving you quite a sound investment. Right? Currently, we have two projects, so two different locations that we are able to invest in. These locations are offering, at the moment, we've got 6 available entry points for 6 different clients, and that will get you your EB5. Right? So after 6 months, you'll have your EB5, and you'll be able to live, work, and study anywhere within the US. Right? This is just a little bit of background as to the two locations, but fairly straightforward. Right? Now, as far as the return goes, everybody always asks me, yes, the 500,000 gets invested for a 5-year period. What am I going to make as a return? Now, generally speaking, as a rule of thumb, EB5 investments aren't going to necessarily make you rich, but what they will do is they will still generate an income. Right? What this project is allowing is for the first 5 years, they will give you an annual return of between 0.5 and 1%. What we've done for our clients is we've negotiated at least a 1% return on an annualized basis. Right? After that, you then have the opportunity to keep your investment. And if you were to keep your investment for the next 1 year, you're looking at a 5%. If you're looking at keeping it for another year, you're looking at a 6%. And then in your 3rd year, you're looking at a 7% return. So they are giving you incentive to be able to keep your money there. However, it's not required. So after 5 years, you are able to withdraw your money. You are able to get everything paid back, including your 1% per year, which is effectively another 5%. What that 5% does is it covers all your additional costs. So you're getting, at the end of the day, you're getting your American dream, if you would call it that, for nothing. Okay, so that's the main thing we look at. Here at Holborn, we make sure that our investments speak for themselves. The fact that the investment is something we have to do, we make sure that that investment, it makes sense on its own. Right? The fact that you get the EB5 along with it is a benefit as opposed to anything else. Right? The process is pretty straightforward. What the process means is we would be investing the 500. In this case, it's saying 560. That 560 includes your government fees. So the 560 is the 500 plus your government fees that will be invested in what they call an escrow account. Once all the funds from all the different investors are accumulated into that account, they would then apply for what they call it a nice name by I-526, but ultimately it's your application form. When your application form is filed, it means that it's been accepted. Once it's been accepted, the funds are released, and the government is looking after that essentially. So although it's going to the investment company, or the company as such, the government mandates that those funds have to be managed in a certain format. So all your recordings of what's happening with that money, it has to be reported back to the government. So it's not a case that they can just now go buy a Ferrari for themselves or anything like that. Everything has to be reported back to the government. If for an unlikelihood that your case is denied, the funds will be returned. So you will get the refund of the 560. So making sure that the stability is there. Right? The whole process is maintained by us. What that means for you is the entire way from beginning to end, I run alongside you, making sure that every step is achieved and that together with the immigration attorneys, we make this a success. Our immigration attorneys have so far submitted over 600 applications with a 100% success record. So once we've started, it's the initial process, we do a little bit of due diligence to make sure that we are all on the right path. But once we've started, we're fairly confident that we'll get you to the end.
Shayne, sorry, just a question on that. You said you have like 100% success ratio of applicants being approved. In what case would a client not be approved? Is that to do with a criminal record, or, I mean, silly things like speeding fines? Will that make a difference to, how they're rated?
So, I mean, those are questions we get asked a lot, including sort of if you've been pulled over for drinking and driving or things like that. Every case is assessed if there is a criminal record, every case is assessed on an individual basis. So part of the lawyer's initial sort of interaction is to assess anything that possibly could be a problem. Things like traffic fines, no. It's anything that's going to show up when we do our police clearances. So it's anything that's going to show up when we have police clearances. So to give you an example, I had a client a couple of weeks ago that had something show up. It was something that he was 30 years ago was arrested for. The time has now passed. What we would do in that situation is we'd go get that expunged, and you can do that. And then once we have that new police clearance that is clear, we'll then process it that way. So if there is an issue, we do have the right people in place that will do an additional due diligence process. That due diligence would then go a little bit deeper into it. So if it was let's say, for instance, a drinking and driving 2 years ago, they'll look at the severity of that. In the case, what they're mainly looking for is fraudulent activity and sort of proper criminal, like murder, that kind of thing. Right? But every case is looked at as an individual basis. The benefits of the EB5. So up until about last year, this was the fastest moving program ever. We've got waiting periods within places like China of 50,000 plus applicants. We've got waiting periods in India of 30,000 plus applicants. Generally speaking, when you're looking at the regional centers, it's almost like a quota system. So certain countries have certain allowances. Now, for South Africa, we're quite lucky that they seem to like us, so the processing times flow quicker. However, if you are outside, because of the direct EB5 and because this is an expedited process, we are then able to get those specific clients from outside to be able to jump the queue and still get their passports or their green cards within about 6 months. Right? So it is a nice benefit to have.
Shayne, sorry, and is that specifically for South Africa that we're able to expedite that, or is that does that include other countries in Africa?
So it's for all countries. Because of the specific project, it allows us to get everyone to jump to the front of the line. So anyone that is participating with this specific project can jump to the front of the line. And it is quite beneficial. Like I say, I've got clients that are sitting in India that have been waiting 3 or 4 years now, and they haven't even got to the process. We're talking offering our clients 6 months, and then they have that opportunity. The other nice thing about this is you don't physically have to go and live there. As long as you have the intent to be able to relocate and to immigrate, that is what they're looking for. The initial process where they want you to physically be there is about 183 days after application. And what they want you to do is go through the immigration department, receive your green card, because you'd have to go pick up your green card by yourself in person. You would then receive your green card, and from that moment on, as long as you have the intent to be able to immigrate, that's what they're looking for. What that means is it's giving you a little bit more flexibility to be able to wrap up the things that you need wrapped up here in the SA, for instance, and then be able to go. If, for instance, you cannot hit that 183 days and go physically and go pick it up, you can apply for an extension. Generally, those extensions are the fact that you are busy wrapping up a business or businesses unallowing you to do that, but you would do that through your immigration attorney. So again, very straightforward. And we've seen over the last month a massive swing and an uplift in attention into this program, into the EB5. So it's quite straightforward. Alternatively, we do have other options. So this is what I like to call as an immigration route. So it is you guys going across, it is living there. We do have alternatives that we can discuss at a later stage. that gives you what they call an E2 visa. Now, an E2 visa is a country that has a signed treaty with the US. And that signed treaty is allowing you to be able to open up a business, and through that business, be able to live, work, and study within the US. Unfortunately, that will never lead to a citizenship. The EB5 is your only way of obtaining a citizenship through one of these investments. And when talking to the attorneys the other day, it's basically the second easiest process other than marriage to be able to obtain a US citizenship. So it's fairly quick. I've tried to keep it a little bit more summarized so that we don't lose anybody. So I thought, well, let me open it up to a little bit of questions, see if we have anything that we can answer for our clients.
Okay, Shayne, there is one question, and that is someone has asked, do you ever get that $500,000 back that you've invested?
Yeah, so that 500,000 does come back, generally looking at 5 years. After 5 years, you will get that money back. Like I said to you, although it is required to be seen at risk, it doesn't have to be risky. So how we invest that money is we invest it. Sorry, I see my camera's gone off here. Can you guys still see me?
Yeah.
Can I start there? Because it has to stop it. Okay. I think Matthew, you stopped my video, but anyway. So basically, what it means is you will get your 500,000 back. It is seen at risk, but because of the due diligence and the backing that it is a government-backed process, we are pretty much 99% certain that you will get your money. All right.
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Perfect.
Okay, I'm back.
That's a good question, though, because I mean, I know, Shayne, you're obviously very familiar with the whole side of the donation side of things, especially with, let's say, Portugal or you know, the popular places that people have probably heard of and dealt with. But I mean, essentially, if you're donating something, this is far better than essentially you loaning it, from what we understand, getting a percentage or however long you leave it for back, and you do get the money back at the end of the term.
Yeah, I mean, all the costs are returned to you as far as a return on investment goes. So effectively, at the end of the period, you're paying zero money and getting your end goal. Places like St. Kitts, St. Lucia, Antigua, which are quite popular routes. Generally speaking, there for a family of four, you're almost donating about, call it $150,000 to $200,000, which is non-refundable. And for that process, you're obtaining a passport that allows you to travel, and it's a very extensive allowance of where you can travel on those passports. But what this passport is doing, for a lot less money, is it's allowing you to be able to become an actual citizen of a first world country where a lot of our clients are wanting to actually end up, to actually physically live, work, and study. And the fact that your children will then benefit from that, because as an American citizen, it is able to pass through generation from that route.
But also, even just by being a South African, now let's say they only want to move there in 5 years or so, at least their money is already in hard currency. It's not depreciating. So if they are ever to move there, I think it's a win-win for everyone. Get the money back, it's still in dollars, and
yeah, it's a solid investment. So we're not investing. I mean, some of our clients, and we invest in certain places where the currency is fluctuating. But in terms of a dollar-based investment, you understand that your cash, what you put in, is ultimately what you're going to get out. And if you're hedging it against what the South African rand does, you guys are a lot smarter than me when it comes to that side of things. Effectively, you're now expediting your funds, and you're moving your funds offshore for a purpose, yes, but you are able to keep those funds outside. Once they're out, they're out.
As you were saying earlier, one can lend that money from your parents. There's no requirement that that money be your own cash. So as a result, if you have someone who has either a local trust or even an offshore trust, one could then, with enough money, loan from that trust, use that money to finance your EB5 program, and then afterwards, pay that money back if need be.
Correct. And that's where your guys' expertise come into play. You'd be able to structure things in certain formats to be able to make sure that it works for everybody. Look after the taxes, but essentially get the family to where they want to be and offer them opportunities that they wouldn't necessarily have. We're giving future generations the opportunity to move a little bit further forward than what we had the opportunity to move.
Yes.
Those of us with the South African passport, we understand the difficulties of being able to travel, of being able to, you look at our current situation right now, we're on what they call a red list. And that red list is stopping us from leaving South Africa. So it just gives us a secondary route and a little bit more beneficial for where we want to end up.
Yes.
Exactly.
And you mentioned then that it's open to basically anyone. So how does that affect, for example, other nationalities or other nationals living inside South Africa? They can apply along through the same program.
Yeah. So the general information that we're going to require is we're going to require their nationality, so proof of who they are, so generally a passport copies and police clearances. We will need proof of the children being children, so we'll need their birth certificate, and it'll be unabridged birth certificates with the parents' names on. And then if it's a wife or a spouse, we would need a marriage. Unfortunately, this does require marriages. I do have clients that are spouses and not legally married. But in this case, it would be a requirement to be able to marry.
All right. So your common law marriages and customary marriages, they would not qualify. It would have to be I suppose an old-fashioned legitimate marriage.
You see, there are ways and means, but realistically, the most simplistic way is we would need a marriage certificate. It's the easiest, most simplistic way. To be honest with you, if we had to go down one of the other routes, it's complex. It generally doesn't work out. So that's why we recommend a marriage instead.
And then briefly, Shayne, say for example, someone doesn't have the $500,000 or $600,000 needed for the EB5 programs. Are there any other programs that Holborn Pass offers which can eventually lead towards a route or pathway towards the US, somewhere perhaps through Grenada or one of the other countries? So
generally at the moment, we've got two. And the reason why we utilize these two is because of, like I mentioned before, that E2 treaty. So America has a number of E2 treaties signed around the world. Most of these countries, they call it a 3-month treaty. So basically you have 3 months to be able to utilize this, which doesn't practically work. So what Turkey and what Grenada have that is different is once you are a citizen of those countries, they allow you a 5-year treaty. So it renews every 5 years and it's an automatic renew. So it continues ongoing, which makes life a lot simpler. But it allows you through a business to be able to live, work, and study in the US.
And how much are those programs typically?
So those programs vary. You're looking at anything from about 250,000 to about 400,000, depending on which route. Now, Turkey is probably your cheapest route. It does have a property-based element. So there you're looking at a property investment of 250,000 US dollars. But it gives you quite a nice return. So on a return basis, you're looking at anything between 6 and 10% on your property. But quite nice process. And you only have to hold that asset for 3 years. Right? So it's a nice route to be able to go if you're looking at a short term. The only thing that you've got to keep in the back of your head is for children, as soon as they reach the age of 21, they are no longer sort of able to go on that path. They either have to go for their own E2 visa, which is quite simple, or they would go one of the other routes, like an EB5 and E1. So it's either through study or marriage or work.
And so what say they are now? Sorry, Shayne, what say they are now 20 years of age and you apply and it's expedited and you get the approval within 6 months. What happens once those children turn 21?
So what for the E2 or the EB5?
For the EB5 program.
So for the EB5, whether they turn 21 at that point is null and void, because once you have your effective green card, that's the process. Whether you turn 30, the next, whatever the age group, it doesn't really matter from that point.
As long as you're under the
long
age
as
of
when you-
21 when you apply and before it's approved.
Yeah, before it's approved.
Okay, any questions from your side?
No,
Jade?
no, I think that, I mean, the program speaks for itself. I don't think that there's any, quicker or more beneficial program than this EB5 program, especially as you mentioned, Shayne, while there's this fantastic discount at the moment. I think if ever there was a time to consider it, the time is now. And just to wrap it up, Matthew and myself and Shayne are obviously extremely happy to meet with you individually, because there is no one size fits all. Not everyone has the same budgets or the same needs. And so, yeah, we're happy to chat to everyone on an individual basis. And yeah, thank you so much, Shayne, for your time. Thank you, Matthew.
Yes.
Pleasure.
Thank you, Jade.
Great seeing you both again.
And thank you to everyone that's joined and watched this evening. We hope to reach out to you and hear from you later on. Thank you. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening, Shayne. Thank you,
Thank
Jade.
you, guys.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.